Okay. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Thursday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, Founders Orthopedic Clinic, HUDCO Roofing, HUDCORoofing.com, Restored Motion, RestoredMotions.com, and ProChargeEV, ProChargeEV.com. Okay, y'all, let's get it here. A couple things got there in the description. We'll get to LSU cornerback J.K. Johnson done for the year. Brian Kelly made that announcement on Wednesday during the SEC Coaches Teleconference. So Johnson was injured early in fall camp. He's the Ohio State transfer who, was right around a top 50 overall player in the country when he signed with Ohio State. He started 5 games a year ago on the team that went to the college football playoff, but J.K. Johnson, we barely knew thee. So, I guess maybe somewhere in my mind I kind of hoped that, it was a broken bone, which we knew, but I think, you talk about breaks sometimes, 6-8 weeks, and considering he was out for camp, for most of camp, you figured, okay, well, maybe he's out September, comes back maybe mid-October. That, it was kind of my distant hope, and maybe could have given you some help on that back end, but done for the year. He came here with 3 years of eligibility remaining, so he's still got plenty of time. It's one of the good things about the transfers LSU brought in last year. None of them are one and dones. I mean, they've all got eligibility remaining. So in theory, Zai, Chestnut, J.K. Johnson, Denver Harris, all 4 of them could all be back next year as well, along with your signing class, so you can start to build some numbers and some depth again. But unfortunately, we won't get to see J.K. Johnson this year. And then the other bit of news is that the Saints added a defensive end. Obviously, with the injury to Peyton Turner, they went out and signed Terrell Lewis. Terrell Lewis went to Bama, if y'all remember. He was there. He was a starter at the end on their 2019 team that LSU went to Tuscaloosa and beat. So he was a third-round pick of the Rams, was there for 3 seasons. They let him go, spent part of last year with the Bears, or the offseason with the Bears, and they cut him, and so now he's in New Orleans. So, I'm mostly interested to see what they do this week. It's unrealistic to think that Lewis is going to be able to ramp up quickly enough to be able to give you snaps on Monday Night Football. So what do? You've got Isaiah Foskey, who was a healthy and active last week, who you could activate, or you could sign Nico Lalos off the practice squads. You have a couple of practice squad guys that you got a couple of practice squad guys that would make sense. Nico Lalos led the NFL in sacks in the preseason. So, that's one option, is you could activate Lalos. The other is Kyle Phillips. So Kyle Phillips is a guy who's been around the league for a while. Of all the guys you have, he's got the most skins on the wall, but it's just a matter of, he played pretty well in the preseason too. But what do you want to do this week? My guess is this week I would activate Kyle Phillips. He's still a young dude. He's got the most NFL experience of your remaining defensive ends. If you're asking him to come in and be a rotational piece and give you 15, 20 defensive snaps, I'm cool with that. So anyway, okay, let's say some good morning, see what you got. As always, that's what I need to do. As always, if you're there on YouTube, please smash that like button and subscribe up to the channel. We appreciate. Interesting. Okay. I was going to, what's going on, man? There we go. I kind of need a favor, but I screwed up, so I'm going to have to ask y'all tomorrow for a favor. The long story short is that, as you know, HUDCO, we have a Baton Rouge office and a Bossier office, and service the entire state. Google recently split our Google reviews now. So it's like all the reviews that have been for the company are now either for the Bossier office or the Baton Rouge office. So that stinks, because if you go look up our Baton Rouge office, there's like 7 Google reviews now, whereas we had worked really hard to build that up for a long time. So anyway, that's a long way of asking. I need people to go write us, especially we've helped you at HUDCO, to go write us Google reviews for the Baton Rouge HUDCO office. But I'll put the link tomorrow. All right, Kelly Gross, good morning. Patrick Burglass, who you got tonight? It's hard to go against Philly, man. I think the thing about Philly that I think we're going to continue to see manifest, well, 2 things. Number one, I'm curious what Jalen Hurts does to build on last year. That's number one. Obviously, this game's at home, but the other part of it too is they really made out like a thief in the night. With the way that they handled this draft, right? We're getting Jalen Carter, and even like getting Jalen Carter, getting Nolan Smith basically at a discount in the first round of the draft. Even like Elias Ricks, they signed Ricks as an undrafted free agent. I know a lot of people have a bad taste or whatever. I'm just here to tell you, like, Eli Ricks balled out in the preseason and is a really good player. He battled legit shoulder issues while he was at LSU and last year at Bama. But if he's healthy, you got a stud cornerback there as well. So I think Philly's just kind of getting started with their run. Ryan Amanda Guidry, good morning. Vernell Thomas, good morning. Why did the Saints cut wide receiver Kirkland? Yeah, so that was the corresponding roster move. So they added the defensive end, and they had to have a corresponding roster move. So they signed the defensive end, and they cut John Trey Kirkland. So I'm sure John Trey will be back. It's at some point, but it was one of those things where I think you had to look and say, okay, where's the luxury that we have? Where do we have great depth where we can afford to cut a player here to replace? So that's why. Because as far as I know, Vernell, I don't know that they've made a formal move to put Peyton Turner on IR. So you would have to keep him on your 53. You would have to cut someone to be able to add them to your roster. Amy, hi. Gerald Mathern, Charlie Cavell, Josh DeVilliers, good morning. Could the Jets seek after Jameis? Heard anything on this? So Josh, we talked about that on Tuesday, kind of at length. What it would what it would cost. My guess is probably a mid or late round pick. If you just think the Cowboys just traded a 4 for Trey Lance, so that's probably, I think, the ceiling that you get for him. But I don't know that there's any interest right now from the Jets in trading for Jameis. That's really the question. Let's see. Jim Arsenault, good morning. Lowell Cormier, good morning. Getting colder in North Dakota. Kayak season is coming to an end shortly. Hope all is well. We're doing well, Lowell. Good to see you there, man. Stay warm. Bill Schmidt, happy Friday Eve. Jason Horn, Matt, did you see Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in Detroit ask all the fans to buy ski masks and wear them to the game? Gotta like that guy, even though he's no longer on the team, and he knew kicks. Yeah, I've said it since the day he was drafted. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is the guy that when he's on the other team, you hate him, and when he's on your team, you absolutely love him. He was that guy at Florida. When the Saints drafted him, I was fired up. When they traded him, I was devastated. But I also understand he wanted a deal that the Saints weren't willing to pay, and they were never going to reach an agreement. So you trade him to get something before he walks in free agency. But yes, I get why people love him. I also get why people hate him. One second. Okay, sorry about that. Backpack was beeping. I had to give him some meds. So, okay. Matt Plavidal, good morning. Who did LSU lose to DB already? So, talked about that as we started here today. J.K. Johnson out for the year. That's the cornerback who transferred in from Ohio State. So, broke his leg, a bone in his leg early in fall camp. Was kind of hoping he'd be back at some point this year, but apparently the surgery was super intense and invasive, and they had to set it and all that stuff. So, J.K. Johnson done for the year. Joey Vincent, good morning. Brad David, good morning. I agree. Zach Arnett really sounds very green in his press conferences. He may be an awesome coach, and he may prove to be a great head coach in time. I think moving from someone with Mike Leach's experience to someone who's a rookie head coach in Zach Arnett, who, in my personal interactions, a pleasant person, I just don't find him to be magnetic. And it's pretty clear that the first couple weeks they've struggled as well. And Kevin Barbay, the OC, who came into Mississippi State, came from Appalachian State, where he was a little more wide open. It's so weird. It's eerie. It almost feels like the conversations, we're digging up the conversations we used to have about LSU's offense, where you maybe have a disconnect between what the coordinator wants to do, what the head coach wants to do, and you feel like you can't open it up and you have the resources to do it, but you don't. Try to win a different way. It feels very similar with State right now. Trivia Carter, good morning. Wendell Norman, Weston Weaver. Oh, yeah, Matt said, what's up with the Ohio State DB transfers? Other guy LSU got last year didn't play. Yeah, so that was Seven Banks. Seven Banks played, but then he took a hard shot. He hurt his neck, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Weird coincidence. Dax Jeter, good morning. DB isn't a place we could afford an injury. Reed Rule, morning, Scone. Hammering the LSU Mississippi State over 54.5. Neither defense can stop a nosebleed. Reed, the bigger question there is whether or not State's offense can actually score. I get it. LSU's defense has got problems. But the other thing that people forget when you say the defense can't stop a nosebleed, LSU did get 4 consecutive stops in the first half against Florida State. By the end of that game, I think they were tired and worn out. And Grambling, after moving the ball in the first quarter, really didn't the rest of the game. So this will be interesting to see how it goes. Cajun Country saw LSU's baseball schedule. Tennessee, Florida, Vandy next year. Arkansas too, at Arkansas. Seems tougher to win the SEC than the College World Series. Yeah, so LSU's going to get Florida Vandy at home. They got to go to Tennessee, Arkansas. They scheduled a midweek game on a Wednesday at Rice because that's the weekend they're going to go play in the Astros Foundation Classic at Minute Maid. So they're going to go up to Houston, play Wednesday against Rice in Houston. I guess practice Thursday, then Friday they'll play Texas. They play Texas. I believe it's Texas, ULL, and Texas State, if I'm not mistaken. Ryan Pike, Eagles -6.5. Ask Otter. I'm telling you, bro. Him and his handicappers have been on fire. I'll take his advice on what to play. Hunter Broadhead, good morning. I feel like you got to give Foskey a shot. Yeah, Hunter, I don't know that it's necessarily just grant people shots. Every roster spot matters, so it's really who do they think can most affect the game. And I'm going to be totally frank with you, man. If Foskey was a healthy and active week 1, I don't think he's my option. But we'll see. Jesse Pose, good morning. Ryan Slayton, can we get a Scone Stradamus episode after the Saints' victory Monday night? If I get it right, yes. So, I mean, look, a lot of people asked if I was going to do Scone Stradamus on Sunday, but I was wrong. I picked the Saints to lose to Tennessee, 27-24. So, Scone Stradamus was wrong. Antron Hemingway, good morning. Ransom Antoine, good morning. Spurge, good morning. Phil Stevens, Von Bluesman, good morning. Eric Wilderrotter, segment with Rush yesterday got me thinking, have you ever accidentally dropped an F-bomb on me? So Russ Russ said GD on air yesterday, but you can say D, you can't say GD on air, which is weird. But anyway, Eric, I feel like if I had, it's one of those things that would be so striking that it would be burned into your memory forever, right? Just seared into there, that moment. Because that's a like gut in your throat type thing, right? If you were to drop an F-bomb on air. And I can't remember ever doing it. So I'm going to say no. And it is kind of amazing because I do curse a lot. Y'all know that if y'all watch my live streams other than Morning Scone. You know, I curse a lot. Cursing doesn't bother me. It never has. So, it's kind of amazing that in real life, walking around, I curse a lot. But on air, I've never let it slip. Let's see. I don't see us trading Jameis. He's one of the league's best backups. If we trade him, Carr goes down. We're in a similar position. You know, for sure. I don't know that. Well, I guess you're saying if Carr goes down, if we trade him and Carr goes down, we're in a similar position. You mean as before? So yes, we said the same thing last year about Andy Dalton, best backup in the league, and when he had to play, it wasn't so great. So. I don't know, man. I kind of subscribe to the belief that Derek Carr is going to take you to whatever your heights may be this year, and if he's not available, what does it really matter? Get an asset for Jameis if you can. I can see it either way. Strong side, good morning. That framed autograph Chase jersey was nasty. Yeah, man, so shout out. Signa Frames is the name of the business. I like signature frames, SIGNA. Frames, FRAMES. Custom frame jerseys. I'll link it here. So cool, man. Yesterday I walked. So it's a funny thing. Some of y'all see me do live streams when I walk in to Guarantee, and every day I walk in, I talk to Lady Jag at the front desk, and usually when I walk in, there's like a box, either outgoing or incoming. Just it's a big company and there's always packages. And so when I walk in, I always go like, "Oh, my box," and she's like, "It's just a game we play." And I walked in, there was these two big, like rectangular boxes, and I was like, "Oh, my box!" And she looked at me. She looked at me funny, like she always does. And I went up to her and I was like, "Actually, this is my box." And so there was one for me and one for off the bench, and is beautiful. I got a signed Jamar Chase jersey. They got a signed Mason Smith jersey, and it's gorgeous. I mean, the jersey is autographed and framed. Name, picture, LSU logo. I put the link there in the chat for Signa Frames if you want to check it out on both Facebook and on YouTube. So it's in the chat if you want to check it out. But yeah, awesome. I mean, they got tons of LSU play, all different types of athletes, but really, really, really cool stuff. So, Matt Plavidal, bigger question: is T-Bob ever dropped the F-bomb on air? Probably. I mean, I don't know. At some point, Vaughn Bluesman, 24-hour rule is not working. LSU's lost opening football game 3 years in a row. Help me, please. So, Vaughn, they haven't lost the opening game three years in a row. They've lost it 4 years in a row. Mississippi State, UCLA, Florida State, Florida State. And I can't help you, Vaughn. The 24-hour rule exists for players and coaches because they are the ones that have to go actually play and execute the game, and they got to move on to the next. We're fans and commentators. We don't have to abide by a 24-hour rule. Let's see. Josh, hope to see more Logan Diggs action. You will. Buddy Bond, good morning. Are you worried about the LSU game Saturday with our situation with our secondary? No. I don't think this is a very good Mississippi State team. So if LSU does struggle or loses, I think that is super indicative of the real, very real problems this team has. Bubba Smith, good morning. Any more? Perkins Fries and Matt, did you see the video of Carr asking for a go route for Sheed? I did see that. I don't know if someone tagged me in that on Twitter or if it just popped up in my feed, but I did. From, I think it was NFL Films, wasn't it? So it was Carr on the sideline telling Rasheed, he's like, Sheed, run. Like, run. On the 3rd and 6 when they threw it down the sideline to seal the game. Greg Carter, morning, Matt. Think Lyle Collins will be healthy enough to be signed by any team? Greg, he said mainly the Saints. I'm not sure if it makes sense for the Saints because Lyle's a right tackle and you've got Ryan Ramczyk there. So I don't know that makes sense. But I hope he's healthy enough, yeah. I mean, tore his ACL last year. But if he's rehabbed and he's ready to roll, that'd be awesome. Reed, no in-state road games this year for LSU. I said for baseball, anything to do with TV cameras shutting down in Hammond this past year. Maybe, but I know also they don't want to make it a habit of traveling for road midweek games too often because, as it's been told to me explicitly, you can't pay for that stadium with the lights off. So they need as many home games as they can get, right? So if they usually travel for a midweek game, this year they're playing a midweek game at Rice. So there isn't another opportunity to do that. Robert Collins, how awesome was it to see T-Bob on Colin Cowherd's podcast, The Volume, a while back? As a huge fan of the three of y'all, any chance you would ever have him on AFR? That would be sick. You mean to have Colin on AFR? I'd be happy to. I don't know about affiliations considering he's with Fox. I don't care at all, but I don't know that he would be allowed to do hits on ESPN affiliates. But yeah, I mean, of course I'd be down for that. Yeah, T-Bob does his podcast with Aaron Murray, Snaps, which is part of the Volume Sports, which is Cowherd's network. So y'all check that out too. Okay, I got to go. Y'all have an awesome day. Thanks so much for being here. LSU Daily's already live. Please subscribe up on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you for AFR 3. Deuces. Peace.